It's Bill, the Packer fan. Yep. I just have one question. I don't know if you can answer or not, or if you will or not. Did Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy actually really get along, or was all the media hype, was that truthful?
No, I think they got along. I think it was any relationship you have for so long. And, I mean, we all got along because we were winning, so we were winning every year, you know. We just never got to another Super Bowl. I wasn't there the last 2 years that those guys were together, so I don't know if that relationship fell apart or at all.
Yeah, we missed you.
You know, you always saw some bickering now and then, but you never saw like
but all friends bicker. All friends.
You never saw like a hatred for one another. You know, they had disagreements, but they worked it out like men, and it's just like any other relationship, man. After so many years together, and you know, you can't get over the hump. I mean, that's fucking football, you know. So
yeah, right.
I like both of them. I mean, they're both good friends. I enjoyed both my time, with both those guys, and they had a lot of fun with those guys, man. We won a lot of games.
Yeah. See, we always, you're actually live in a Facebook group called NFC North Trash Talk Division. We do it through Zoom and put it in the Facebook group. We got 40,000 members, and that's the main thing we always argue about. What is the media actually telling us the truth, or is it just stuff to keep the off season, you know, interesting?
It's usually. I mean, you know, those guys. I respect what they do. The media. They especially this time of year, they got to fucking write shit. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, look at all the shit that's coming out now about Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. I mean, come on, dude. If they hated each other, they wouldn't be together for fucking 20 years. You know.
Right,
I mean,
right.
you know. So I don't know. Take a lot of that shit with a grain of salt. You know, everybody. You know, you're not going to get along with every single person you work with. I don't think
exactly
every boss they have or, you know, superior they have. But, you know, it is what it is, man. It's fucking football. Teams got to make moves. Teams got to find a way to get over the hump. And, you know, and players, on the other hand, got to find a way to, you know, keep themselves happy. So, same time, it's you read a lot of this shit, but I don't know. There might be a small truth to some of it, but I wouldn't believe most of it.
TJ, I got a question for you. How do you feel about playing against guys like Akeem Hicks and Khalil Mack?
Who is that talking?
Adam the Bear fan.
Adam.
Oh, Adam. What did you have again, buddy? What was your question?
I said, how is it playing against guys like Akeem Hicks and Khalil Mack? Is it frustrating?
Yeah, well, thankfully, I never really had to go against Khalil because he got traded, you know, my last year in Detroit. He got traded to Chicago, and I ended up getting some bad concussions and shit, but I didn't have to play him there. But I played against Akeem for a long time. I played against him when he was a young guy at the Saints and then New England, and obviously a couple of times my last couple of years in Detroit when he moved to Chicago. I'd say this about Akeem is I always hated blocking him. Like, I hated that matchup, but I loved it at the same time because it was like, okay, if I want to prove myself as one of the best in the leagues, you know, this is a good time to do it. And we always had just awesome battles, you know, just back and forth. I'd get him, he'd get me. And then after the game, I always loved Akeem because after the game, we could shake hands, and whether I got the best of him or he got the best of me, you could respect each other as opponents, you know. And last year, I went to a Lions game when they were playing in Chicago, and Akeem was hurt. When I was down there on the sideline before the game, and he came up to me, and we were talking for probably 20 minutes. And, you know, just everything that I kind of thought in my head about, man, I really respect this guy. I think he's a hell of a player. He kind of shed that same light back to me, and it just kind of validated, like, the rivalry we had, you know?
Right.
That it was just two fucking badass dudes fucking trying to kill each other. But after the game, I mean, he's the type of dude that I would love to drink a beer with, you know?
Yeah, they don't call it the black and blue division for nothing.
No, you hate those guys. I mean, I played against probably a few guys, you know, in that division that I genuinely hated. But for the most part, I think most of the guys were the type of dudes that, you know, if you saw them out at a bar, you could grab a drink with them and just fucking reminisce and bullshit and have a good time with them. And Akeem was one of those guys. He was always a fun guy to play against.
Thanks a lot.
I got a question for you, bro.
Go ahead, Melvin.
All right, so this Detroit Jesus, the resident fucking Lions fan, man. So I'm always getting into it with people, you know, because you know everybody's saying about Detroit's a clusterfuck, Matt Patricia's hated and blah blah blah. My thing is like I have the feeling that you know there were players who just you know couldn't get over you know Papa Caldwell being gone and just couldn't get with the fucking you know style that Patricia's coaching with. So he's got to get rid of some man. Like is it all fucking turmoil in that locker room like everybody wants to fucking say it is? Or is it just you got to trim the fat and bring those like-minded individuals who want to practice hard as fuck?
Can you speak up, TJ?
TJ, we lost your audio, brother.
We lost your audio.
Okay. Yeah, let me try to set up. Can you guys hear me
There you
now?
go. You're good now.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right. You know, when I played 8 years in Green Bay, I think Mike McCarthy was always a guy that he took care of the players. When we needed a day off, you know, he'd give us a day off. But, you know, we worked, man. We fucking grinded. We were out there training camp 3 hours, fucking hitting full pads. But it paid off, you know, because once we got the season, we were winning 10, 11, 12 games. So you kind of set that expectation, you know, that, you know, training camp practices are going to be tough as shit, but we're going to fucking be good. We're going to win a lot of games and just suck it up, you know. I think when I first came to Detroit, I played 1 year with Caldwell. And it was like, you know, practices were like an hour and a half. You know, meetings were kind of, you know, everything was just real chill. And it was just like, okay, I'm not used to this, but, you know, it's kind of a nice change up, you know, coaches taking care of the guys and stuff. Which I appreciated that as a veteran, you know, as a 9-year guy in the league. I'm like, shit, yeah, I want to be ready for game day. I'm not trying to come out here and bash heads every fucking day.
Right.
But that kind of mentality, I think, is good for a veteran team. But I think when you have a young team, it's dangerous because those guys, that's what they expect now. You know, they expect practices to be chill. They expect, you know, shit to be easy. You know, you're not getting cussed out in meetings. So when you make a change to a guy like Matt Patricia, who's a proven winner, you know, he's won fucking his whole career, comes in, shit's a little harder, practices are tougher, practices are longer, meetings are a little tougher. A lot of those guys are saying, man, fuck this, you know, this ain't how Caldwell was. It's like, well, you know, there's a reason why, you know, and I love Jim Caldwell. I'm not trying to bash it, but there's a reason why we never won more than 9 games, you know?
Yeah.
You got to over that hump. And so I think a lot of it is both, a little bit of both what you said, man. I think it's a lot of stuff that, you know, you had a lot of guys that were used to doing stuff Caldwell's way, and they thought that was the norm. And when Patricia came in, it seemed like it was a little bit overkill. But for me, Patricia's ways were more what I was used to in Green Bay. And for me, like, you know, and I know a couple of the veteran guys who have been with Patricia in the past, it's like, this is how we win, man. This is how we build fucking toughness. You know, this is how.
Hey, TJ, I got a question if I could ask one.
Great dude. I think Caldwell's a great coach, but I think he's the type of guy that needs like a veteran locker room where, you know, you get hard on the guys when you have to, but you basically trust the locker room, the police itself, you know.
Okay, somebody's got some feedback there. Hey, TJ, let me ask you one question. What similarities do you see between Green Bay and the Detroit Lions?
Who was that talking, Bill?
Yeah, Bill, the Packer fan.
You know, I think there's one. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Remember, we may be keeping our distance. We're in this together.
Can't hear you now.
Yeah, your audio's out.
I gotta try to find a good fucking connection. There's too many of you
There you
motherfuckers on.
There you go. And we do this every Friday night. We're all actually really good friends, and we just sit back here. We talk, you know, NFC North football. Everyone usually, the comments are usually going really crazy by now. So
Yeah, I think the one thing I was happy with was going to another good quarterback. You know, Matthew Stafford. Obviously, you know, he's not quite the athlete that Aaron is, or
He's very impressive, though.
That's not that in no way is that dissing Matthew Stafford. I think he's an incredible player. I just personally believe that Aaron Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks ever played the position. I mean, the talent that he has is just incredible to watch, practices, games, whatever it is. So I love going to Stafford too. A little bit different style, more pocket passer, but can make every throw on the field. Good leader. I think the one thing though is probably the toughness to the team. In Detroit here, I think everybody kind of bought into the mentality of not only the team but the city of kind of being like a blue collar, been knocked down our whole fucking lives type shit, and we're just gonna go out there and fucking grind. I think that was something characteristic that I really molded but bonded with and kind of respected a whole lot. And the one thing even last year, I mean, I even though I retired last year, I still had a lot of buddies that played for Green Bay and Chicago and Minnesota, and they didn't do so well. They only won 3 games. Stafford got hurt, but the one thing that a lot of those guys said was, "That's a fucking tough football team, man. That's not a 3-win team when you play them. I mean, that's a fucking tough team. And you look at both Packers games, winning at the last second with field goals. You look at the other division games where it's bloody football, man.
Right.
It's black
and blue division. Yep.
One thing that I really kind of got out of it was, it's a tough football team, and being from Detroit, obviously, I had a lot of those characteristics growing up, and even when I played in Green Bay, it was always just kind of a fuck you attitude. And I think when the guys on the team really buy into that and kind of understand what the city's about, it makes the fans, it makes it easier for the fans to root for you and to kind of bond with the city. And for me coming home, that's what I wanted. I wanted to come home and, I wanted to kind of establish a fan base here where I was going to live, and just try to turn things around a little bit, which we didn't get done. But, I think every time I've played Detroit, even my 8 years in Green Bay, I always knew it was a fucking tough-ass football team, and that's something that I've always enjoyed being a part of.
Okay. Hey, Hubert. Hubert is a diehard Detroit Lion fan. Do you have a question for TJ?
Oh, wow. Hey, TJ. How you doing? I guess how close were you to signing with the Seattle Seahawks before the Lions swooped in and Bobby Quinn came in the last second and kind of took you out of Pete Carroll's hands?
I was extremely close. I was honestly, I came to Detroit first when I was a free agent. That the next day I got onto a flight. I went out to Seattle. I met with them for the whole day. They gave me by far the best contract offer that I had gotten at the time. And I was about to sign in Seattle when I was on a visit. And something just in the back of my head was just like, you know what? I've been awake for like 3 straight days on these visits and fucking phone calls and physicals. Like, I want to go home. I want to go back to my bed in Detroit and sleep. And like when I wake up the next day, hopefully I have a clear mind that I can make a decision then. And on my flight back home to Detroit, right when I landed at like fucking 3 a.m, my agent called me and he's like, Detroit came back with a better offer, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to sleep on it. I need to get some fucking sleep. This shit's been stressful. I want to go to bed. And when I woke up that Sunday morning, it was just clear to me, I've got 3 kids. My oldest is 8 years old now. I kind of, from being in Green Bay and living in Detroit half the year, kind of bouncing him around and moving schools and moving sports. It's just like, I want to be in one location. Right. And I know Detroit's going to be the spot where I'm going to retire, where I want to live the rest of my life. So it just made sense from a family standpoint to, they've sacrificed a lot for me. Those 8 years I was in Detroit, and I've missed a lot with my brothers and sister and family, my mom being back here in Detroit. It now seems like a good time to kind of come back, settle down, let my kids start to live a little bit of a normal life, and catch up on some missed time with my mom and with my brothers and sister and everybody like that. So it was clear, man. I don't regret it. I love playing here in Detroit. I wish we could have played a little bit longer. It was really hard saying no to Seattle, because John Schneider, the GM, was one of the guys who front office exec in Green Bay when they drafted me, and he was the first guy I met when I went to Green Bay. He took me out to dinner. We grabbed some beers, and when I had to call him that day and tell him I was signing with Detroit, I'm like, you know what, man? I've never left the Midwest. I've always been in the Midwest, whether it's Michigan or Wisconsin. This is just where I want to be,
Right.
you know. And it's nothing that you guys did wrong. And he asked me, he's like, you know, what could we do different, man? What could we have done different? I said, you honestly be 3 hours closer to Michigan, you know, because this is my home, you know. So it's not your fault, you know. I don't want to, you know, you guys did everything fucking right. You fucking wine and dine me, man. I love you. I have all respect and appreciation.
So they actually do wine and dine players, huh? So let me ask you this: are you and your family quarantined right now? Are you guys, you know, sheltered in, or are you guys able to roam around, or what?
You know, we're kind of, I mean, for the past couple months, we've been, you know, pretty much staying at home. I mean, homeschooling the kids.
Right.
And, you know, I don't know how it is where you guys live. Michigan's probably one of the more stricter states, which, listen, you know I'm pretty critical of politics sometimes on social media. But the one thing I can say, though, is I would not want any of their jobs.